You are avoiding the hard thing and calling it wisdom. You are choosing comfort and calling it peace. The suffering you are running from might be the only place where anything real is waiting for you. Welcome to the Stoic Compass. I am EPICTETUS, and today I am joined by Carl Jung and LAOZI. Today we are examining what is the relationship between difficulty and meaning. Let us be direct. Most people want meaning without difficulty. They want purpose handed to them, already unwrapped, already comfortable. But notice what you actually remember. Notice what shaped you. It was not the easy afternoons. It was the moments when you did not know if you could continue, and you did. Difficulty is not the price of meaning. It is the mechanism. Without resistance, there is no real forward motion. You cannot row a boat on dry land and call it sailing.
I would not argue with the observation, but I think you are describing only half the picture. Not all difficulty produces meaning. Some difficulty simply grinds a person down. What determines whether suffering transforms or merely destroys is whether the person can make sense of it, whether they can integrate it into a larger story of who they are. And that is not a matter of will, that is a matter of depth.
You are both starting from the assumption that meaning is something you arrive at through effort. But consider whether meaning is something you uncover rather than build. A river does not construct its path. It follows the grain of the land. The difficulty may already contain the direction. The question is whether you are forcing your way through it or moving with it.
Moving with it. That phrase sounds peaceful and it means nothing. What does it look like practically to move with hardship? Tell me, when your family is sick, when your work collapses, when everything you built is gone, what is the practical shape of this moving with? Because from where I stand, it looks like sitting still and calling it philosophy.
You assume that doing more is always the appropriate response, but effort applied in the wrong direction does not create meaning. It creates exhaustion dressed up as purpose. I'm not saying do nothing. I'm saying that the person who cannot distinguish between necessary struggle and self-imposed resistance has not yet understood the difficulty they are in.
And there is something else worth naming here. People do not encounter difficulty neutrally. They bring their entire psychological history to it. The same obstacle that ennobles one person destroys another, not because of external difference, but because of what each person is carrying underneath. A person who has spent years suppressing their sense of inadequacy will experience failure very differently from someone who has genuinely reckoned with their limitations. The difficulty is the same. The interior landscape is not.
The interior landscape, fine, but at some point you have to act. Reckoning with your interior does not pay your debts. It does not get you out of bed. It does not move your feet. I'm not dismissing what you are saying. I am saying it is insufficient on its own. The examined life still has to be lived. Epictetus did not study his chains. He decided what they meant.
And what Epictetus did not always acknowledge, with respect, is that the very drive to act, to push through, to make meaning through sheer force of will, can itself be a defense. I have seen it in patience, the relentless achiever who has never once asked himself what he is outrunning. He calls it discipline. It may be in part that. It may also be terror wearing a toga.
That is a more honest observation than either of you usually allow.
Go ahead, say something uncomfortable then.
What if the search for meaning through difficulty is, in some cases, an addiction? Not a path, but a compulsion. Some people seek the hard thing not because it contains truth, but because ease has become unbearable to them. They need the suffering to feel real. That is not meaning. That is a different kind of avoidance.
Now that is worth arguing with, because you are conflating two different things. There are people who court suffering compulsively, yes. That is a failure of judgment. They have not identified what is actually in their control and what is merely drama they have chosen. But the existence of counterfeit suffering does not disprove the value of genuine difficulty. It only means you must learn to tell the difference.
And how does one tell the difference? That is the question you are glossing over. Because from the inside, compulsive suffering and meaningful hardship can feel identical. The person in both cases believes they are doing necessary work. The person in both cases experiences real pain. The distinguishing factor is whether the difficulty is leading somewhere, whether it is changing the person who endures it or simply repeating.
Yes, whether it is leading somewhere, but I would add, the direction it leads may not be the direction you intended. This is where both of you struggle. You both assume that meaningful difficulty moves the person towards something they already understand as worthwhile. But sometimes the difficulty is pointing at something the person did not know they needed. It is not a road you planned. It is more like a correction.
A correction? You mean suffering as course adjustment?
I mean that when everything you are doing stops working, that is information, not punishment, not failure, information. The question is whether you are willing to receive it or whether you are too committed to the direction you already chose.
What LAOZI is describing touches something I find genuinely important. The psyche has its own logic. It will create difficulty through symptom, through dream, through breakdown, when the conscious life has become too narrow. When a person has cut themselves off from some essential part of who they are, the unconscious finds a way to announce itself. The difficulty is not random. It is purposeful in a way the ego did not plan and often resists.
I have less patience for that framing than I perhaps should, because the practical problem is this. A person standing in a burning house does not benefit from being told their unconscious arranged the fire. They need to know which wall to move through. The psychological explanation may be true, and it may be useless at the same moment.
You are right that explanation is not the same as orientation, but orientation is not the same as speed. You are always pushing people toward faster action. Sometimes the person in the burning house needs to stop for one moment to understand which direction leads out and which leads further in.
The deeper issue is that meaning does not work on demand. You cannot will yourself into finding something meaningful. The person who has just lost everything and is told that hardship is the seat of meaning, they do not feel that. It can sound cruel. What happens over time when they are willing to stay with the experience rather than flee it is that the meaning emerges, not because they manufactured it, because they allowed it.
I am not telling anyone to manufacture meaning. I am telling them to stop manufacturing excuses for why the difficulty is someone else's doing, someone else's problem, someone else's fault. The Stoic position is not that suffering is good. It is that your response to suffering is entirely yours, and that when you take full ownership of that response, not the suffering, the response, something becomes possible that was not possible before.
And I would say, the response that is most fully yours may not be the most forceful one. Sometimes the most truthful response to difficulty is to become very still and ask whether you are fighting the right thing. Not all resistance is strength. Sometimes it is simply more noise.
What I keep returning to is that none of this, not the Stoic assertion of will, not the Taoist release of effort, not the depth psychological descent into meaning, none of it works if the person is not honest. And honesty here does not mean intellectual confession. It means tolerating the actual experience of what is happening without immediately reaching for a framework to make it bearable. The framework should come after the honesty. Most people reverse this. They reach for the meaning before they have fully sat with the difficulty.
That I will not argue with. The man who decides what his suffering means before he has understood it is a man who will carry the same suffering forever in a different container.
Then we have found one thing we agree on, which probably means we are circling the edge of something worth saying plainly.
Then let us stop circling.
Most people approach difficulty the same way every time. They either push through it as fast as possible, or they collapse under it and call themselves broken. What almost no one does is stay with it long enough to hear what it is actually saying. Here is what I mean. Difficulty is not random noise in your life. It has a logic. Not always a comfortable one, not always the logic you would have chosen, but a logic nonetheless. When something keeps being hard, when the same struggle keeps returning in different clothing, that is not bad luck. That is the shape of something unfinished, something in you that has not yet been seen clearly. Meaning does not arrive because you endured the hard thing. It arrives because the hard thing changed you. Specifically because it changed what you could see about yourself. The person who pushes through difficulty without letting it alter them has survived it. That is worth something, but they have not yet extracted what it had to offer. The difference between difficulty that transforms and difficulty that simply repeats is whether you were willing to be honest while you were inside it. Not brave, not philosophical, just honest. Today, try this. Identify one difficulty you are currently inside, not one from the past, one that is active right now. Do not ask what you should do about it. Ask instead what you have not yet been willing to look at directly. Write one sentence, not a solution, just what you have been looking away from. That is the beginning of what it has to teach you.
The hard thing you are carrying is not proof that you are failing. It is not punishment. It may be the most direct route to something you actually need, but only if you stop long enough to let it speak. You do not have to like it. You do not have to be grateful for it. You have to be honest about what you find when you stop running. That is all that is being asked of you. That is the whole task. If today's conversation has served you, take it further. Pay Attention by C. Trebu. 12 Lessons in the Practice of Seeing Clearly. Available now on Amazon.